This is a work of fiction. It is fan fiction created from imagination and thought. Any relationships or similarities between anything heard here and in real life are entirely coincidental. This fanfiction exists as a source of entertainment, and it does not represent or intend to infringe upon the rights of the creator, publisher, or any other related entities to World of Horror. Also, any flubs I make here and there, or any discrepancies you see between the fanfiction spoken in this video and otherwise is based on the times, so... Anywho, let's start. Through the Heart. Students entered and left the school as normally as they did in the past, which was strange considering the incidents taking place. Folk tales coming to life, unknown horrors appearing in the fields, eldritch entities walking among them in disguise. The sky shone down in a clear sunlight on some days, and on some others, there were many solar eclipses. Too many people thought these were strange coincidences. Oh, how strange! Nothing was life-threatening or worth discussion. There was the occasional worry or gossip. But as Moriko glanced around at the students, that's all there was. She'd infiltrated the school before. She was immediately detained the first time. A faculty member questioned the long bag on her back. Her shotgun wasn't allowed on school grounds. Although the students remained wary of her, the faculty soon took a blind eye when a so-called rabid dog attacked the school one day. She was detained that time too, except it was actually an escort away from the scene. A few police officers who understood the dangers in Shiokawa remained her silent but sure allies. That's how she avoided jail time. Or worse, a call to her father. Moriko's current troubles at that school, though, fell on the sighting of an odd individual. Sighting because Moriko couldn't make out the person among the students. Fell because her eyes noticed that person among the students. Odd because said student didn't have a head. A few days ago, she blinked twice, hard, to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. When she staked out the school along with a trusted partner, with the faculty turning a blind eye to her presence, she confirmed her suspicions. Yeah, that person thing doesn't have a head. But neither that partner nor Moriko wanted to raise a fuss. Sure, they asked if any of the students had seen anything strange. The answer was no. The faculty didn't notice, or maybe they missed the individual. When Moriko asked someone who knew more about magic, they said it could be an enchantment spell. The mystery reached the point where Moriko decided to investigate during the night. She didn't actually shoot at any humans she ran into. It was hard when it was ambiguous, but Moriko decided, no humans. She tried her best, even if they were in masks, even if they might have been a monster that pretended to be a human. She had confidence in her skill with the gun. Hand-to-hand combat. Her hands gripped the old shotgun, but she controlled her reflex to aim. She cleared the rooms with her eyes. She could react to what she could see. When she entered a room with mannequins, though, her thoughts emptied. A few students spoke about the room. Unfinished works of art stood still, left over from previous years. Some students entered alone only to feel like they were being watched. They felt that way even though most of the mannequins had no heads. But what filled Moriko's thoughts were the bodies of the mannequins. Yes, she was interested in women more than men. The mannequins around her, though, they were too realistic. Not the material. They looked hard to the touch, and not every body was different. She felt bad. But was it bad to have preferences? That one was too short, that one was too tall. The one near the wall had arms that were too thin. That one had a waist that was too round. Each of the mannequins she subconsciously judged felt normal. The one near the corner caught her eye. Perfect. A neckline that held her breath. A bust that made her heart thump louder in her ears. Legs that would look amazing when running. Moriko reached out and touched the mannequin's arm. It was solid. Unlike a human. Her fingers trailed to feel that smooth yet hard surface where its skin should be. If the mannequin had a head, she wouldn't feel any nervousness. You're beautiful. She felt something move. She didn't know how. Moriko had to describe it as something moving from within. That perhaps its leg twitched and she felt that through the arm. Her eyes traveled down. Nothing. No movement. She couldn't help herself after that. She placed her fingers on the chest, the tips of her middle finger looking for a heart within. That maybe, and unfortunately, this was a monster she had to put down. Half a minute passed. The hairs on her neck stood, and the fresh scent of wood and paint heightened. Specks of dust in the air settled on Moriko's lips, and still nothing happened. That silence emboldened her thoughts. She assumed no one was around. I won't hesitate to end a threat. Her fingers traveled down to the mannequin's stomach, or where the belly button would be. But maybe, if you weren't, I'd feel comfortable. As the words came out, Moriko didn't know what she meant. Not exactly. But she did live alone with her father, alone in a forest where a traveler or two walked past once a month. She figured there was some human aspect to that difference, that setting, that some mentioned to her face that she was a daddy's girl. But was it possible? Moriko didn't know what that question meant either. Clattering filled the room as something from the halls fell. That's what it sounded like. Moriko wasted no time after turning her head. She strode to the door, slipped out to the hallway, and readied her shotgun across her waist. She then saw the collapse of chairs and school supplies through the door of a classroom. A few young men looked back at her, holding their hands up. "Who's there?" one of the men spoke first. Moriko gripped her shotgun tighter. "I heard a noise. Who are you?" "We're a few students who forgot something." Moriko could hear the lie in the second man's voice. He looked young enough at a distance, but it wouldn't fool her. "This guy was looking for it in the classroom." "Yeah," the third man almost glared at the second. "Yeah, don't mind us. Just let us go." Moriko's eyes narrowed through her glasses. She saw a single desk propped up among the mess. She didn't know who it belonged to, but the tools hidden from view troubled her. She took a silent step forward and noticed how the men's stances changed. "Hey! Stop right there!" The first man tried to sound scared, but there was a dangerous growl in his voice that betrayed his intent. She was 4 steps from them before they brandished their weapons. A knife, a crowbar, a bat. Moriko only faltered a step long enough to think. Everyone moved at once. Unlike most of her encounters, the fight began quietly. A grunt, knife in hand, cut downward, then Moriko smashed the butt of her gun into a wrist. A knife dropped to the floor. She twisted her body, stepping past the bat that knocked against the floor. The first man went reeling to the side, holding his wrist. The second stumbled, unbalanced, as his bat bounced along with him. Moriko ducked. The man with the crowbar swung overhead. He too stumbled as he expected to hit flesh. Moriko drove her foot into his leg, and the man fell atop and over her back. The man who dropped his knife threw a wild punch, and Moriko stepped back. She stepped back farther when the man with the bat ran at her. And still she refused to raise her gun. She didn't need to, though. The man with the bat charged to thrust the tip at her stomach. In one movement, Moriko shifted her hands, held the shotgun at its tip, and took a swing. The man's head snapped aside with a crack, and Moriko ignored his body crumpling to the floor. The man with the bat shouted his friend's name, then snarled at her. But he didn't move. Moriko had wondered what he was thinking, and her world turned. She felt the impact behind her head and realized that something fell to the floor. There was a fourth person, a fourth man. She tried to pick herself up, but the remaining 3 men began attacking. Moriko grit her teeth as shoes stomped, weapons hit her limbs, and the men shouted. Thankfully, she wasn't injured yet, but she needed a way out. The men continued shouting at her and at each other. Then Moriko saw it. Her self-preservation instinct told her not to say a thing, but her knowledge of the unknown screamed at her to warn them. It was too late. The arm of the headless mannequin struck, and a man grunted and stumbled forward. Then, he began screaming when he realized his fallen friend's knife was in his shoulder. The other 2 men noticed too late when the mannequin's arm shot out. The man who ambushed Moriko with a chair choked on the hand on his throat. The mannequin lifted him into the air, and the last man standing ran away, screaming. The choking man kicked and squirmed, legs flailing over the ground. And then, the mannequin slammed him onto the floor. The man fell unconscious, and it turned its attention to the one who it injured. Groaning, the man wasted time screaming and failed to escape before the mannequin reached him. Moriko got to her knees as the mannequin stood and bent over the man. He noticed too late. Hand clasped around his throat, he too grasped feebly at the mannequin's wrist. His legs kicked as he struggled for air. Don't. She saw the mannequin turn its attention a moment ago, and she noticed, if it had had a head, it would have turned it. In its place, its neck seemed to move in a way that implied the turn, as it did when Moriko spoke. "Don't hurt them." Moriko stood to her feet, shotgun unraised by her leg. The mannequin seemed to stare. Without eyes, it stared. Even as the man pleaded for his life, they communicated in that moment. Why? Moriko couldn't know what the mannequin was thinking exactly, but it did release the man. He fell, coughing, then stood up and ran. The other two men lay unconscious. Now Moriko was left with the mannequin. She wanted to raise her gun. She did so before. She did so when other monsters interrupted her fight with cultists. She did so when Beast attacked the dog she was caring for. Why wasn't she able to do so now? She knew the answer, but she couldn't accept it. One mistake was all it took and she'd be dead. Wouldn't she? Moriko wanted to deny it. What was it? She got closer to the answer as the mannequin slowly raised its arm, extending it toward her, extending a hand in its fingers. It wasn't a handshake. It was more like a request for a dance. It should be a trick. There was no way this is real, but it was happening right in front of her. So Moriko raised her own hand, but not before she spoke her thoughts. Am I about to die? She was in so much disbelief. She thought that the fourth man who hit her had killed her, that she was dreaming now. But the hard grip of the mannequin's fingers were very real. The steps of the mannequin's hard feet sounded real. The mannequin's hands dropping to her waist to hug her felt real. Moriko had to ask, Are you the one pretending to be a student? The mannequin pulled back a centimeter. Then it pulled away from the hug. It took her hand and began drawing with a finger into Moriko's palm. Moriko glanced down. Origin human. Person? Moriko couldn't understand the full meaning of the kanji written into her palm. She used her understanding of the words to interpret what it had wanted to say. Were you a human being? More writing. No. Drawing room 1 person. The mannequin held Moriko's hand for a moment, then started communicating again. Made me. Someone made you? Moriko glanced up, then realized she wouldn't be staring at anyone. No, don't. You don't know? Yes. She didn't know what to say, but she did have to ask. You're not going to hurt anyone? The mannequin held her hand again. It was almost too close, the way it pinched her palm softly between its thumb and forefinger. Then, almost tickling Moriko with how it slid its fingers on her palm again, the mannequin wrote. No. Me. No other person. What do you mean? Somewhere while asking that question, Moriko wondered how the mannequin could hear her without ears. This third moment of silence went on for too long. Moriko then wondered what the mannequin was thinking. It wrote again. Home. Go. Go home? Me, you, together. Your home. Moriko swallowed to wet her now dry mouth. Can I do that? The mannequin slowly but surely placed its hand flat against her palm. Palm to palm. Moriko thought, and she thought some more. How do I do that? The mannequin drew back. Surprise? But it jumped in place, then turned around and pressed its back to Moriko. What are you doing? It took its hands and held Moriko's wrists. It brought her hands to its waist. What are you doing? Moriko screamed this time. The mannequin jumped to her arms, then hastily drew on Moriko's palm. Can't? The mannequin asked. Take me your home. Moriko was confused. Moriko thought. Then she thought some more. Alright. Ignoring the men on the floor, she thought about the best way to do what was needed. She put her shotgun on her back, strapped inside its bag once more. Then, hesitating for a moment, she carried the mannequin in her arms. One arm under the legs, the other across its back. A bridal carry. The mannequin was moving the whole time, trying to fit in the best way. So, Moriko felt that the mannequin was confused when it froze in her arms. She cleared her throat. This is the best way I can think of, she explained her thoughts. If we did leave you here, someone might come to hurt you or something. So I'll keep you at my house. I'll explain things to my dad. Somehow. The two unconscious men, on the other hand, could stay on the floor. They didn't seem like they'd stick around long after waking up, especially if they knew about the many incidents that had happened in the school before. But Moriko kept it in mind to report them to the authorities. Alright, let's go. The mannequin nodded with its neck. Moriko swallowed. It felt too much like she was taking someone home in a different way, but that wouldn't be too bad, would it? She laughed once to herself in disbelief. As for the mannequin, as Moriko carried it through the halls, as Moriko carried it out of the school, it had to consider what had happened just then and what happened before. Its request was sudden, but the reason it wanted to go with her wasn't anything complicated. It was indeed made by a human being long ago. It was definitely capable of hurting people. It learned the ways humans communicated. It learned what the world was turning into. It learned that it could be seen as normal even without a head, as long as it was wearing clothes. It thought that its current life in the school was normal. How students were creeped out by it and the room it stayed in. How teachers were astounded and shocked at how the mannequins weren't thrown out yet. But that night was the first time in its existence that it had been told it was beautiful. The mannequin had heard of the students talking about love and what it felt like. Strangely enough, it didn't know if that was what this was, but if this world could be saved, it would like this change in its life. And let me take a note, because that's the end of, I think it's still about like 2,600 words. I tried to cut it down. I don't even know if I successfully cut it down. I also didn't do the thing correctly, and I hope this recording makes it through, because boy did it take a while to get this through. Also, I'm going to die in this Eldritch Parasite run, because if I felt confident, I would have been able to shoot Akamanto earlier, so yes, I am playing this run if that wasn't obvious while I'm doing the read-along, which probably isn't the best idea. There's no reason for me to do that, but hey. Also, did I store the handcuffs or something? I didn't grab them, did I? Or maybe I did. No, I used them on Akamanto, so never mind. I'm going crazy. So I guess what we actually do here, as I focus for a moment, we probably even throw the mask. We do. But yes, this fanfic was... it shouldn't have taken as long to release this video, considering it was shorter. But as I said in a recent video, and I should say so now in the official video, I wanted to make sure that things were going correctly, because, boy, did a lot of things happen that were not great. So, and part of the holdup was also me wanting to make it good, at least the video, because I only get really one. I get to release the video, and that should be, you know, what I put up. In the instance of putting up videos that I feel somewhat proud about, at least, I feel that it's good to do my best, and we'll see what happens afterward. So, again, I could just end. Also, we have Recluse. That I completely forgot about that. I might actually want to use the history. I do want to use the history club now, as I do the reverse of what I would normally do on an Eldritch Parasite run, but I didn't even notice until after pretty much after Akamanto. Because I was looking, yeah, so I made a few mistakes while I was reading through the fanfic itself, so, and obviously I was, there's a big chance that, I probably shouldn't have taken that, there's a big chance that what you read when I actually put it up somewhere, I think it's going to be the same medium that I've used. The link should be in the description and the pinned comment. I should have said that first. But the more important thing is that, you know, there might be differences because I am still looking at it, and especially when I read aloud, which I do to myself before recording, before I recorded this and the previous fanfic, I catch things that I'm not happy with about. There are still things that I was going, as I was reading the fanfic, like in this video for this recording, I wasn't happy about, but we'll stick with it for now. Now, if there are any, if I were to try to give advice as a writer, oh my goodness, along with my speaking skills, but that's something different, I feel. 97% to 97%. It would be that, you know, a lot of I forgot what I was gonna say exactly, but I mean, you do want to edit your stuff. Like, there's no reason not to. Oh my sweet goodness. Well, probably shouldn't have done that. No, I forgot what I was gonna say. I guess we'll move on. Oh my goodness, I forget so many things. I really should. I keep saying this and I never do it. I should write down what I want to speak about in videos. I have a lot of good ideas I do want to speak about, and I often forget. If good for no other reason than to at least get everyone's brain juices flowing. Also, nice mind drain, but we have 3 reasons, so I think we're gonna die no matter what. I would like to survive, but that's... Again, I'm not really usually focusing... No, I'm actually focusing very little as I'm reading the fanfic. At least the 2 times I've tried before. But... You know, all things considered, I still feel like this is something that I could do. It's just I haven't been able to do it as often because, yeah, it's... I have a lot of things on my plate, and I really shouldn't be I shouldn't take this long. I should be putting more on my channel and doing other stuff. But I kind of get in a block every now and then I end up, like, taking a nap or something. Sometimes it's a nap. Sometimes it's me just being too into it, because I am playing a lot of gacha games. Not a lot. Well, a lot relative to the amount of time I actually do have. I don't know why I just ate that in the face. But as we continue to... we're probably going to die to reason here. Well, the video will end when I succeed or when I die. And it seems like the threshold will be when I die. Because there's no way I'm going to get 8 charisma, and I'm pretty sure I don't have a light source. So, if nothing else, I hope you enjoyed the fanfic. But as we die to reason here... I will, I'll plan to do more. If there's anything you want to see specifically, whether me writing something or me making something, let me know, because I am still trying to keep an open eye, mind, ear, so on and so forth. But without further ado, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and you want to support me at any length. Otherwise, memberships are also open. I might as well plug that in really quick. And I thank you for watching, so I'll see you when I see you. Bye!